What up, though, YouTube? Welcome to another video, chopping it up with Uncle Sean. I'm Uncle Sean. I got some interesting stories I think y'all might, be able to pass the time with. So I'm gonna go right into it. This story right here is about a friend of mine named Ronnie. Now, Ronnie was the type of guy that made bad decisions a lot of times. He wasn't the brightest guy in the world. He lived around the corner from me. We went to school together. He's a real good friend of mine, but he made bad decisions. So this is a story about one of his bad decisions that led to some punishment. So we had this friend named Daryl. Daryl was a real cool dude. He was older than us. And for some reason, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just my neighborhood or if it was Detroit, period. But I knew a lot of people whose mother would leave them the house. Like the mother would just get a boyfriend or get married or something and, you know, leave the house with the kids. Whether it was one or three or four or five of them. Basically y'all got to fend for yourself. And that was that. So Daryl and his sister, uh, they were. This was the case with them. Their mother basically left them the house, and Daryl had sickle cell. So let me get to the point. Daryl liked to smoke weed and drink wine. So when he got sickle cell and he was in the hospital, he was in Grace Hospital at the time. It was on 7 Mile and Myers. So me and Ronnie came up with the great idea. I'm not gonna blame it all on him because we didn't know anything about sickle cell though, really. You know, and he had kind of been in the hospital a couple times, and it didn't seem we didn't know we were young. I was probably about 16 at the time. This is probably like 1987, and Ronnie's he was a year older than me, so he was 17, and he didn't know anything, and so we came up with the bright idea to take him some wine to the hospital, and his mother worked in the hospital, so we were able to get in the hospital. Ronnie's mother worked in the hospital. She was a nurse, and we were able to get in the hospital pretty easy. And we went up to the room where Daryl was, and he was laying in the bed with tubes and shit coming out of him. And I was like, "Oh man, he's messed up." We didn't know. He was sick. He laying up in there. He could barely talk, and he got blood transfusion coming through, and what you call it, that IV and monitors and shit going, and we like, oh no, we like, and we basically, knew he wasn't finna drink no wine. So we visited with him for a while, and then we leave the hospital, and we're walking towards, back towards the house, and Ronnie, I'm like, yo, let's take the wine over your house and go drink the wine, and he's like, oh, let's go over Mark House, and I'm like, no, I don't want to go over Mark House. Now Mark was another guy. Him and his two sisters, their mother, she shook the spot and left him the house. And Mark was the oldest. And he had his two sisters that stayed there with him. Now, the two sisters had boyfriends. One of them went with a guy who lived on Ronnie Street named Muse. That was his nickname. And the other one went with a dude named Tony, who was a guy from the neighborhood. Him and his brother Juan hung out. And Tony and Juan were kind of like, they I guess you call them thugs. you know, I wouldn't say gangsters. They was thugs. I think they like fought pit bulls. They was. them type of guys. They was a little older than us. Once again, they was, let's say, I was 16, Ronnie 17, Mark's probably 22, Tony and Juan are probably 22, 21, 22, something like that. So, you know, um, I don't want to go over there. Now, Mark is out of town. So I don't know why Ronnie wants to go over to Mark's house. Mark wasn't even there. So I go home. So he goes on over there. Now let's forward up about a week later. Okay? I'm not thinking nothing else about none of that right there. Ronnie comes over to the house. We leave from my house. We're gonna go to the store and get some 40 ounces. You know, back in the day we had to, stand out there. Well, actually, there was a couple stores where we could actually buy it, but a lot of times we had to stand out by the store and get somebody to go in there and get it for us. Do that back in the day. And we're headed towards the store, and we're walking down my street, and coming from 7 Mile towards where we are, headed towards Margarita, is Tony and Juan. And it's just, they just happen to be walking up the street. And we're about to turn the corner. So if we go ahead and turn the corner, you know, they wouldn't even seen us. Ronnie sees Tony and Juan coming up the street, and he's like, "Hey, there's Tony and Juan. Let's see if they want to go get some 40s with us. Then we can get more." Now, I didn't want to wait on Tony and Juan. I mean, they never done nothing to me. I just, they wasn't my type of dudes. They was older, and they seemed to be into things that I wasn't really into. I'd hung around them a few times and whatever, but it just wasn't. They just wasn't my type of dudes. So I didn't want to really wait on them, but he wanted to wait on them. Now the dumb part about this whole thing is he knows what he's done, but I didn't know. So when they get close and they see that it's me and him, and they see more importantly that it's him, they like, oh, here he is right here. And I'm standing up there and I'm kind of puzzled. And the first thing Tony walks up to Ronnie and says is, "Hey, I got a bone to pick with you." And I should have known right then that Ronnie he done messed up because his voice changed. What I do? He got all soft in the voice, and I'm like, oh shit. So Juan walks up to me, and I don't know if they were brothers or cousins, but you never seen one of them without the other. I think they was either brothers or cousins. But anyway, Juan walks up to me and was like, "Yo, let me holler at you for a minute." So he kind of walks over to me, and I'm like, "What's up?" And he like, "Hey, your boy done fucked up." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he done fucked up." And I'm like, "Well, what'd he do?" So Juan's over here explaining to me about how that day last week when we left the hospital with the wine, Ronnie goes over to Mark's house, and nobody's in the house but Tony's old lady who's pregnant by him, and Mark's other sister who goes with Muse. And he goes in the house and he pulls out the wine or whatnot, and and Muse and the girl, his girlfriend, they go, I guess, upstairs to do whatever it was they were going to do. So Ronnie thinks it's a good idea to try to play strip. No, no, not strip. He tries to play Tonk or Blackjack is either tunk of blackjack for shots of wine, and he was trying to get the pregnant girl. He was trying to get her drunk so he could try to do something with her. Now she's pregnant by a dude from the neighborhood that he knows that ain't ain't no joke. You know what I'm saying? This dude, he's not no punk. You know, you trying to so I'm like, oh shit, because I'm knowing the severity of how bad this could get and how quick it could. So Tony's over there harshly questioning Ronnie, and Ronnie is vehemently denying any such thing, that he didn't do that, and he's trying to explain what happened, and he's explaining, oh, I was just so. I mean, he just, and I'm like, oh, this ain't gonna be good. So, he don't know that he ain't seen them in a week, but all of this has been discussed by all the parties involved. So basically, the only thing that is in question is how severe will the beating be? So Juan asked me, "Hey man, my brother he gonna beat your homeboy ass. Uh, you gonna jump in it?" So I tell him, I'm like, "Look, if y'all not gonna jump on him, then I'm not gonna be in it. If it's head up, it's head up." I said, "Cause you know that's my boy, but he shouldn't have done that, And he was like, "All right, well, that's what's up." So they agreed that he wasn't gonna jump in it. So basically, Tony was gonna beat Ronnie ass for doing what he did, and so meanwhile, Ronnie's over there still dragging. Oh, trying to explain. So he comes up with the idea. You can ask Muse. He was over there. So they like, oh, you want to ask Muse? He's like, yeah, come on, we can ask Muse. So Muse, lives right around the corner, and they didn't already they didn't already talk to Muse about the whole thing. So they go over to Muse house, and Muse don't like me, and I know he don't like me. So I don't go to his house. I stand like in the street. I don't go, onto his property. So uh, they knock on the door. He comes to the door, and Ronnie, he's like, "Yeah, tell him, Muse. I didn't try to get with her. I didn't try to get her drunk or whatever." So so Muse says, uh, "I don't know. I was with my girl. I don't know what you was doing." He tries to just, you know, be out of it. He's like, "No, that ain't right. You was there, because basically he wants Muse to get him out of this ass whooping that he got coming by saying he didn't do that. So he basically wants to override what this man's pregnant girlfriend has told him that you did, and I guess the sister, the sister then told her, and I, Muse didn't told something, because this ain't the first conversation they didn't have. So Ronnie is like, oh, yeah, trying to make him say it. So Muse like kind of pushes him. So you know how somebody get pushed, but they have way more reaction to it than the actual push called for. Like a sympathy fall is what you is basically what you'll call it. So he gets pushed and he falls, like he trying to get some sympathy by falling. And that was the wrong thing to do because when he fell, Tony was on him and started slapping him upside his head. Hey, so you gonna try to, get with my girl, and she pregnant and pow. And oh no, I ain't do that. And he backing up every time he gets slapped. And he backing up and he getting down the street and Juan go over and grab him. He's like, let him up or whatever, let him up. So Ronnie gets up and he gets up slow and he grabs his hat and he standing up there and he got his hat in his hand and he still trying to explain. No, see, I wouldn't. And then Juan lets Tony go and Tony just starts, hooking, just right hook, left hook, right hook, left hook, and Ronnie's every lick and I was pow, and I wouldn't pow, he getting touched, and then he takes a flurry and after he gets beaten for a while, like just taking the punches, never throws a punch back, never tries to defend himself, nothing. So he takes the beating, and then they grab him like, that's enough, man. He a punk, and they start, then they start telling me, why you hanging with that punk ass, he ain't, man, he a punk, man. He ain't even fight, but man, you shouldn't even hang with him, dog. And I'm like, dang, man, shh. So he walking down the street with himself all beat up, and first thing he look over at me and be like, where was you at? I said, I was standing on there watching you get your ass whooped. That's what I was doing. I said, didn't nobody jump in it? It was a head up fight. And he walking down the street, so they let Tony go. He like, man, no, man, I ain't beat his ass good enough. So they let Tony go, and Tony runs up behind him, and Ronnie starts running. He's running from him, and he had this old funny limp walk, like one of his legs was fucked up or something from being a little baby or something. And because he kind of walks like Quasimodo, so he running with this wobble like this. So he gets down to his house and he stops running, and I'm like, okay, because like my father always told me, even if you got to run from somebody, once you get home, you don't run no more. You turn around and fight. So I'm thinking, okay, now he's gonna turn around and fight. Well, he turned around and got punched some more. Pow, boom, pow, in the face. And he's still trying to explain to this dude that he didn't do it. And he's like, man, look, let's just sit over here. And we right over by Eileen and Clarita, and Tyndall Field is right there. And there's like some little borders there to keep you from running into the field with your car. And he's like, man, come on, let's go over here and just talk about it like men, and let me explain to you what happened. So he goes over there, and I'm sitting on this porch, and I'm listening to the whole thing, and Ronnie's sitting down, looking like an old grandpa with some lemonade in his hand or something, except he ain't had no lemonade. He had his hat in his hand, and he's explaining it. The whole time he's talking, Tony's looking around, and he's, he tells his story again, and that's what happened. And he puts his hat on his head, and Tony says, oh, okay, you through? That, yeah. And I'm telling you, man, I wouldn't do nothing like that. I don't know, what she was thinking, but that's what happened. He said, yeah, okay, you do? He's like, yeah. So he picks up a E&J bottle of filth, an empty filth, and bust him across his head with it. Blow! And bust the bottle, and his hat flew over the gate, and blood was rushing down his head, and he just walks off and looks over at me like, man, your boy a hoe. And them other dudes, they standing up there, they laughing, ha ha ha, you bust his ass in the head, Ronnie a hoe, he a punk ass nigga. So Ronnie comes over to me and he's walking over there, and I'm looking at him like, damn, dog. And this motherfucker walking, we walk into his house, and he goes to the bathroom, and I'm standing up there looking at looking at all the glass in his fucking face and hair and all. And he like, don't tell nobody. Oh man, I went straight home and called every nigga we do. I was like, this nigga got his ass whooped for going over trying to backdoor a dude with his pregnant girlfriend. Bad decisions. All right. Well, this has been another story, chopping it up with Uncle Sean, and hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, share, subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Peace.